Well, let's bring in the Conservative peer and polling expert, Lord Hayward, who joins us now.
Good evening.
Robert, very good evening to you. First of all, what do you think of what Mr. Nadhim Zahwawi's done today?
It doesn't surprise me, and the reaction of Conservatives doesn't surprise me either. I can't comment specifically on whether he did ask people to become a peer, but it wouldn't surprise me. And there's no doubt, from what I know, had he tried to re-stand in Stratford-on-Avon at the last election, a very strong probability that he wouldn't have been selected by the local Conservatives. So this is a problem going back over a period.
How conservative, though, is it for you as a Conservative that, frankly, a lot of your former colleagues are switching teams? I mean, there is genuine momentum with Reform UK at the moment.
There's no question. Any defection from any party to another party is a matter of concern for the party who is losing a particular person. Some are more damaging than others, and there's no question that Nadhim, because he's a name, it registers immediately. But Rob Powell identified some of the problems associated with the defection.
Well, and that is, not least of all, that when does Reform UK stop being potentially the new Conservative Party? I mean, you also deal a lot with polling. Is there any evidence that the public are concerned about the kind of sheer scale of the defections, where effectively Reform UK stops being kind of Reform UK and starts looking like a different kind of type of Conservative
There's
party?
nothing clear at this stage in that sort of field. I think that will take longer to evolve. But if one says, does my gut instinct say there is a potential problem, then in places where Reform have successfully attracted former Labour voters, and I have in my mind here the West Midlands, South Yorkshire and the North East, then those sort of former Labour voters who've gone across to Reform will probably find themselves a little uneasy when they're looking at Conservative en bloc defection stroke Reform stroke 2.0 or 2.5 or whatever.
We saw Kemi Badenoch a little earlier there in Rob's report, and we'll come on to talk about her in a second. But what does the Conservative Party need to do now to make Reform less appealing?
I think the opinion polls are beginning to show what the Conservative Party needed to do. There's a very clear poll out today looking at how the public perception of Kemi Badenoch has changed quite markedly over the last few months, relative not only to Nigel Farage, but to Keir Starmer, Ed Davey, etc. They need to be able to put forward a message which says two things. One, we have changed from the party that you ditched so overwhelmingly a year and a half ago. And secondly, the message needs to be, and here are the policies that we are now standing for. You can't just say we're different people. You've got to say these are the policies which we clearly believe in. And that's something she's begun to achieve basically since the Tory party conference.
As you say, the Conservatives got properly booted out of the last election, worst result since 1832. It still seems, and politics is pretty fluid, as always, but it still seems pretty unlikely the Conservatives are going to somehow romp home to victory at the next election. Frankly, is it not more realistic that at some point Reform and the Conservative Party, rather than defecting to each other, should potentially probably just team up together?
I think neither party wants that. Nigel Farage certainly wouldn't want to team up for fear that he actually would have to give way as leader. And Kemi would probably take exactly the same view. So no, what Kemi has to do is make absolutely clear, more clear than is the case now, because she started on that journey, that the policies that the Tories will now be standing on are clearly enunciated and separate the new Conservative Party, if that's what you want to call it, from the 2024 party. Okay. But I think the merger, although there are many people in both parties that would want to see that, there are large numbers of people who wouldn't.
And you've not been tempted to defect, that is?
I wondered what you were asking me about. If you're offering me a pint afterwards, then yes. But no, I'm not going to be tempted.